Hello, everybody. How are we all doing today on this Monday, August 31st? Welcome to Glenn's Dynamic Sports Corner on 12OZSportsRadio.com. I am your host, Glenn Kaplan. We are live in Baltimore, Maryland, which is home of the Baltimore Orioles and the Baltimore Ravens. Who's excited for today's show? Hope you all had a wonderful weekend and are ready for this week to get started here now, though, nonetheless. This is show number 99. This is the final show before, hopefully, show number 100 on Thursday. And first, this is very exciting. Use promo code 12OZ Sports, all cash with deposit bonus up to $1,000 for my bookie. We have a couple of breaking news segments. Segment number 1, Leonard Fournette, running back, has been released by the Jacksonville Jaguars after they failed to trade him. Number 2, John Thompson, former Georgetown basketball coach, has passed away at the age of 78, 576 and 239 record. Noticeable players that played under his at his time at Georgetown: Allen Iverson, Alonzo Mourning, Patrick Ewing, and Dikembe Mutombo. And I know how hurt everyone is with his passing. Players that played under him and the whole basketball community, prayers are with you and your family. And I saw Allen Iverson's Instagram post about it, and I understand his pain because we've seen a lot of this in 2020, sadly and unfortunately. So now I'll get to my next, staying in the breaking news segment with Leonard Fournette after they couldn't get a 5th or 6th round pick for him. So where can he possibly land? Chicago, New England, Pittsburgh, and Seattle, I think, are my 4 choices. Chicago needs a tailback. They have David Montgomery hurt, Tariq Cohen. New England, well, it's Belichick, but I think they like Sonny Michel, James White, Damian Harris. Pittsburgh, I'm not sold on that backfield. I don't think they have a legitimate 3-down back. Seattle Seahawks, well, you always got to consider them. Leonard Fournette was the heartbeat heart of the Jacksonville Jaguars offense, and now they're basically looking towards the future. That's what this move is all about with the Jags. It's all about next year. They're gonna be atrocious this year. Yeah. Doug Marrone's not going to make it out. It's going to be a whole new regime. Will Gardner Minshew even be lucky to make it out 1 year live under offense coordinator Jay Gruden? We'll see how this all works. And then Leonard Fournette, in his career, 666 rushing attempts for 2,631 yards, 17 touchdowns. He's played in 36 career games, 134 receptions, 1,009 yards, receiving, and 2 touchdowns in his career. So he's more the 3-down back. He doesn't catch a lot of passes out of the backfield. So this is a new regime. And they could add Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, and some other tailbacks. There was a whole list of running backs that was taken after him in that draft. But I wouldn't say Fournette's a bust. Someone's going to pick him up. I don't think the market's that big for him. But nonetheless, I think someone will pick him up. Obviously, a lot of you people drafted him in the fantasy leagues because you thought he was going to be the starting running back for the Jags. Now he's got to go find something else. So he's going to be picked up. I'd be shocked if he didn't get picked up. Staying on the topic of the Jaguars, so Yannick Ngakoue finally gets his wish after being franchise tagged by the the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then gets traded to the Minnesota Vikings. Ngakoue and Danielle Hunter are absolutely going to cause absolutely wrecking havoc up front in that defensive line for the Vikings. That's what this defensive unit's all about. This team's about defense and run the ball and then set up play action for Kirk Cousins. That's how not Adam Zimmer, he's the defensive coordinator, son of Mike Zimmer, but that's how the way Mike Zimmer runs things here. And the Minnesota Vikings organization is also a very good, well-run organization. And this is why I think they're one of the best teams in the NFC, maybe let alone in the NFL. And yes, I know they lost Kevin Stefanski as their offensive coordinator to the Cleveland Browns head coaching job. At the same time, you got Gary Kubiak now taking over the offensive coordinator, who is basically a wizard, a genius, a guru, whatever else you want to call him. He's basically a magician when it comes to all of this stuff. For Ngakoue, you want to know what the Vikings gave up? A second-round 2021 pick and a conditional fifth-round selection that could turn into a third-rounder. And the fact that the Jaguars traded Campbell earlier in the offseason to Baltimore Ravens for basically a fifth-round pick just tells you, what am I doing? You know what it's like what the Jaguars front office is? I don't know how many of you guys watch SpongeBob, but there's that one SpongeBob episode where Patrick has a hammer. Patrick Star has a hammer in his hand. He's got a board and a nail on the top of his head. And basically says, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know if you all have seen that meme before. But that's what the Jaguars front office basically is. Help me, I have no idea what I'm basically doing with myself. And yes, that is 100% true. They have no idea what they're doing with themselves. That's 100% correct. Because the Vikings defense just got stronger up front. The Jaguars are going to be flat out atrocious in every way you look at it for them this year. If you think they're going to be anything decent, anything relevant, you're out of your minds. Jacksonville may be the worst team in football. They could be very close to that 0-16 Cleveland Browns team and Detroit Lions team. And Danielle Hunter, Yannick Ngakoue, I think is the second best defensive end tandem in the NFL behind Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram, Los Angeles Chargers, though nonetheless. So here are the stats for Yannick Ngakoue in his career. 63 games, 121 tackles, 37.5 sacks, 14 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, 1 touchdown and 23-yard pick six this year, 9 pass deflections, 5... No, that's it. 9 pass deflections. Sorry, that's the next number. There's another thing, another NFL topic I'm about to jump into right now. After the Yannick Ngakoue situation, though, nonetheless, Carson Wentz. Where have we seen this before? The injury bug, the injury riddle for the Philadelphia Eagles. More like the paper glass that Carson Wentz is made out of because he can never stay healthy. Let's face the facts. If Wentz is out for a serious period of time, you Philadelphia Eagles fans are smoking darn right something that you actually believe you can make the playoffs with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts cannot throw the ball. He's a system quarterback. And if you think he's going to stretch the field, you're darn right out of your stinking minds. Because he's not going to be able to stretch the field like the Carson Wentz. He's not going to be able to make receivers better around him like Wentz does. He's going to be blitzed all day, and he's going to be in for a rough time. And yes, I know the tendencies of Doug Peterson. It's like, coach to what he can do best and what he can't do. I get it. But the tape says everything when you start watching film on these players. And there's a reason why that the Tennessee Titans beat a team like Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens last year, because they made Lamar Jackson 30 outside and he couldn't do squat. And that's what teams are gonna do with Jalen Hurts. And if you truly believe that if Jalen Hurts starts most of the season instead of Carson Wentz, because Wentz has a lower body injury and he's day to day, and if you truly believe that Hurts wins you 10, 11 games, 12 games, and they win the division, you're not going to win 10, 11, 12 games. More like 10, 11, 12 losses if Hurts is your starting quarterback, let alone you're injured up front and you got all the injuries everywhere. Even your top rookie receivers out. Jalen Reagor, guy you drafted the first round for TCU. This whole Philadelphia Eagles team's made of glass. Is that what happens when your leader's Carson Wentz? That Wentz is the leader, as they say? Follow the leader? Maybe everyone's following to get hurt? Is that what this is in Philadelphia? And is this probably why people are turning on Carson Wentz? As they say, follow the leader. Everyone's following his lead. Everyone's getting hurt. And that's not good leadership. I'm just saying that as a joke. But I know how Wentz is. He's a good player. He's this, he's that. But let's be real here. Carson Wentz may not be with the Eagles much longer if he continues to get hurt. This is Andrew Luck 2.0 waiting to happen. Absolutely, relatively, no questions asked. Even though, because Carson Wentz, the heart behind soul of your Philadelphia Eagles, how much longer are you going to be able to take this from him? You're not going to be able to take this from him much longer. And let's see his numbers. Carson Wentz, in his career, 56 games, 32-24 record, 63.8 shooting percentage, completion percentage. I'll get to basketball later. 14,191 yards passing, 97 touchdowns, 35 interceptions. That's what he's done in his career. Oh, and of course, shame on me for not writing down his... Oh, there's his rushing yards. There's his rush. I almost said shame on me for not writing down his rushing stats in his career. So here they are. 206 attempts for 785 yards, 3 touchdowns. And this year, he rushed for 62 times, 243 yards, and a few touchdowns. It was 3-6 to them. Jalen Hurts in college, 14 games, 237, 340 passing, 69.7 completion percentage, 3,851 yards, 32 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and then, and he rushed 298 times, 2,331 yards, 20 touchdowns. And his career, 682, 1,047, 65.1 completion percentage. Not. My fault on the own thing. I gotta make sure I write this more clear the next time. Instead of making it look like chicken scratch almost, that I'm calling myself out on this. For not writing these things down more clear than I should be. So, yeah, 3,274 rushing yards on 614 attempts and 5 touchdowns. I'm just gotta say that Jalen Hurts is a system guy, and he's just like Lamar Jackson rushing the ball. And not a deep thrower. Next up on the list. You really want me to get started? Just 12 minutes and 57 seconds in the show. I think I've been pretty good. Not ranting about stuff. But let's see if I decide to break that right now at the 13:07 mark of this glorious 99th show here. Alright. So the update of the New York Mets sale. Today's the day. Once and for all, Mets fans can finally get themselves out of exile when it comes to the freaking Wilpons owning the New York Mets. And that doubleheader, when they blew the bullpen lead 7-2, lost 8-7, and then lost another game 5-2 in extras. And let's see. And every Mets fan on the record, including myself, everyone's like, this is a fake year. And the only thing that matters is that Steve Cohen is going to be buying this franchise, and nothing else matters. He's going to save the day, spend money, and this is going to be exactly like when Steve Ballmer took over the Los Angeles Clippers for Donald Sterling, and it probably wouldn't be a surprise if that happened. It wouldn't be. The Mets are going to be spending more money in free agency, and there's a lot of things that Cohen has to do when he comes in. And the games that the Mets lost yesterday was both in the Bronx, New York Yankee Stadium. And as I said, quote, who cares about the losses? Steve Cohen's coming to save the day from the Wilpons. A lot of people about that statement are correct. And he's expected to be a lot of people are correct about that statement. And he's expected to be the new owner of New York Mets today, and there will be a culture shock. What should his first order of business be? the first order of business should be the first order of business should be firing general manager Brodie Van Wagenen immediately. Bad signings, bad free agents, depleting the farm system. Do I need to go more? A terrible agent, he needs to go back to selling freaking cars and stuff. I mean, isn't that what agents do, or sign? And then the only way who's brought in to sign. Make sure Jacob deGrom got his contract. Starting pitcher, one of the top starting pitchers in the league. The second order of business should be firing manager Luis Rojas, because that's not who he had as, new ownership. They're going to be clean house and everything. The third order of business should be spending money. Hey, with the trade deadline being today, would they dare trade for shortstop Francisco Lindor and starting pitcher Mike Clevinger from the Cleveland Indians? Well, Cohen would spend the money and sign long term. How about this for a trade? Lindor and Clevinger for reserve right-handed pitcher Franklin Colon, prospect right-handed pitcher Josh Wolf, and reliever Edwin Diaz. Edwin Diaz does not belong with the Mets anymore. He belongs in a smaller market like Cleveland. Rosario's not the guy like Lindor is, but he's a much better upgrade. I'm saying for the Mets, but in return for the Indians, Rosario, hey, he gets to play the major leagues right away, gets to play everyday shortstop for them. They get someone in return. Rosario gets a fresh start because, hey, I think the Mets like Andres Gimenez more, and they have another guy in their system they like even better, Ronnie Maccaro, who's projected their top shortstop prospect. If you ask me, I'd trade Rosario before I trade Maccaro or Gimenez. And Mets fans would be extremely thrilled if they get traded away Edwin Diaz. And you know that Steve Cohen would probably sign Francisco Lindor, and Mike Clevinger would be easily the number 2 starter on the Mets right now behind Jacob deGrom. And you also would have Noah Syndergaard come back next year. Maybe Cohen opens up his pockets and brings back Marcus Stroman. But having Lindor gets upgraded at shortstop, Mike Clevinger in the rotation, although there have been talks today about Clevinger going to a team like San Diego Padres or the Atlanta Braves, and there have been a couple interesting players that the Indians want in return. One of the players the Indians want in return is outfielder Drew Waters from the Atlanta Braves. You already have Christian Pache. You know that was going to happen. And I think the Atlanta Braves should jump all over that trade. Drew Waters, they dreamt of having Acuna Jr. and Drew Waters, Christian Pache. But the National League's not that strong. Atlanta's got to put their chips on the table. They got to put their chips on the table. You have to trade a high-end prospect like Drew Waters. And I think it'd be great for the Indians because, hey, I don't think it could be any worse than any other guys in the lineup this might be in first place. And I had a couple Indians fans text me last night saying, hey, we're still in first place for right now. I'm like, yeah. In my mind, I'm like, yeah, we've seen this story before with the Cleveland Indians. Wait until the playoffs come around, and then we'll really see what happens. Because it seems to happen a lot with the Cleveland Indians. So I'm curious to see how it's all going to work out today with the whole trade deadline. Mike Clevinger, the San Diego Padres are making a lot of moves. And there's some other teams that are probably going to make some moves as well. Maybe the Los Angeles Dodgers, the New York Yankees, Minnesota Twins. It's all going to depend on what happens today at the deadline. And if the New York Mets better just stay pat. Because they better not make a move or everyone's going to basically panic and be up in all arms. So, maybe they would, in that Clevinger mock trade that I said, Diaz with the Cleveland Indians would be a good place for him to revive himself. Maybe also the New York Mets would add a player to be named later as well, though nonetheless maybe a lower tier prospect. Speaking of selling the team, the Wolfpines will not be the owners of this franchise much longer. They will still have a 5% share of this franchise, though. Today's the day, August 31st of 2020, for the final bids for this franchise. Steve Cohen is the man for this position. He grew up in Staten Island, New York, and has been a New York Mets fan for a long time. Alex Rodriguez, Jennifer Lopez, and Josh Harris's group have now been officially dropping out of this race, though, nonetheless. And they were also in the final 3 favorites to land this team. Don't worry, New York Mets fans. This is probably the only highlight we will all have in this worst year of our lives in 2020, though, nonetheless. Moving on to the NBA. So, Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell, it just fits right that this series is going to a Game 7. 119-107 win by Denver last night. And then Jamal Murray, 50 points, 70.8% shooting from the field, 5 rebounds and 6 assists. Nikola Jokic, 22 points, 46.7% shooting from the field, 4 rebounds, 9 assists, and 3 steals. As for Donovan Mitchell, 44 points, 56% shooting from the field, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals. Mike Conley, 21 points, 53.8% shooting from the field, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and 1 steal. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure if the Utah Jazz are winning Game 7. They had their chance at Game 5, and they could have had it in Game 6, but I don't think they're winning Game 7. Interestingly, which is scheduled for tomorrow at 8:30 Eastern on ABC. They never scheduled these NBA games on ABC during a weekday, but maybe this is just because of the times that we live in and maybe need something to watch on the big networks. Because it's a Game 7, that everyone will tune in and try and... Oh, I know they're probably why they're doing it on ABC. They know that they're down for ratings. So, to drive up those ratings, they need to put it on a national televised market, which is kind of smart by Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, who I think's done a pretty good job about a lot of things. And if you are the Los Angeles Clippers, you would rather face the Utah Jazz than the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets, I think, are deep enough to beat the Los Angeles Clippers in a second-round series. Next is, yes, dirty Marcus Morris Sr., who tried to injure Luka Doncic again. And you know what? I really wish Luka Doncic just popped him. I know he would have been ejected. But Marcus Morris is just not likable. He's just one of those guys who thinks he's playing the game the right way. And he's just a dirty you know what. He's just a dirty player. He's not talented. He's gonna hurt the Clippers more than he helps them. He's just not good. You know what's funny? The Clippers were 2-0 against the Lakers without him and 0-2 with him. And he thinks, hey, this is what happens when you play with the Knicks. And this is what happens when you were on a team that stunk from the S to the K. You just happen to stink. You stink. And then Luka Doncic, the RP sold the Dallas Mavericks, on the other hand, is just a very good player. And the future looks bright for the Dallas Mavericks. Even in the losing effort, he scored 38 points for the Dallas Mavericks, and he led the way for them. He shot 53.6% from the field. He also grabbed 9 rebounds, recorded 9 assists, and recorded 1 steal, though. Just another rebound and assist shy of a triple-double. And then Dorian Finney-Smith scored 16 points for the Dallas Mavericks as well, though. He shot 54.5% from the field. Finney-Smith also grabbed 6 rebounds and recorded 4 assists. Kawhi Leonard scored 33 points for the Los Angeles Clippers. He shot 60.9% from the field. Playoff Kawhi just continues to be amazing. Leonard also grabbed 14 rebounds, recorded 7 assists, and recorded 5 steals. Paul George and Ivica Zubac scored 15 points. George, shot 31.6% from the field. George also grabbed 9 rebounds, recorded 7 assists. It would have been much different in this series for the Dallas Mavericks had Kristaps Porzingis not been ejected Game 1 for Rick Carlisle's bunch, or if he didn't miss Games 5 and 6 with a torn meniscus, which required season-ending surgery. However, it is time for the Los Angeles Clippers to win an NBA title championship in the Steve Ballmer era as the owner of the franchise. As for Mark Cuban's bunch, his future looks bright, though, nonetheless, with this team. He posted something on his Twitter. He couldn't be more proud of his guys. And obviously, Doc Rivers, the head coach of the Los Angeles Clippers, is obviously going to defend Marcus Morris Sr. for his actions on Doncic. And what else can you do? So for Cuban's bunch, I'm curious to see how it's all going to work out moving forward. And when you have Doncic and Porzingis, all swell ends well. Next up, Oklahoma City. And hold on one second. So one other thing about the Dallas Mavericks. So we'll see if they get help for Luka Doncic in the offseason. Now on to the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Houston Rockets. This was allowed from the start. Even though Russell Westbrook wasn't great in this game, his presence alone will be good for this team. He only scored 7 points. Westbrook shot 23.1% from the field. He also grabbed 6 rebounds, recorded 7 assists, and recorded 1 steal. James Harden scored 31 points for this team. He shot 73.3% from the field. Harden also grabbed 2 rebounds, recorded 5 assists, blocked 1 shot, and recorded 1 steal. Robert Covington scored 22 points. Chris Paul led the way for the Oklahoma City Thunder with 16. He shot 46.2% from the field. Paul also grabbed 6 rebounds, recorded 3 assists, blocked 1 shot. Steven Adams scored 12 points. He shot 75% from the field. Adams also grabbed 14 rebounds. Dennis Schroeder scored 19 points off the bench for Oklahoma City Thunder. Nonetheless, that actually led the way. I meant to switch from Schroeder to Paul. So we'll see how this happens, though, nonetheless. Game 6 of that series is 9 o'clock tonight on TNT. And speaking of series, the Eastern Conference Semifinals preview. Number 5 seed Miami Heat against the number 1 seed, the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks may have met their match in the second round of the NBA playoffs with an exclamation point, as I wrote down here on the script. Milwaukee lost to this team 2 out of 3 times this season. Miami can throw different bodies at Giannis Antetokounmpo. He is most likely going to win the NBA MVP for the second consecutive season, and he also won the Defensive Player of the Year award over Anthony Davis' Los Angeles Lakers. Antetokounmpo better get help from Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez, Dante DiVincenzo, and others, because if not, it'll be another early playoff exit for this franchise, who is the number 1 seed once again, and there are going to be several questions about whether or not Antetokounmpo should stay. And those several people better figure out, hey, he doesn't have a second star. And then you have Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Goran Dragic, Tyler Herro, Duncan Robinson, and others will be ready to defend and shoot. Because the one thing about the Miami Heat, they can shoot the basketball. They can downright shoot. Because Miami is quietly dangerous. And also for the Bucks, you also have George Hill and Robin Lopez. And as for the Miami Heat, Kendrick Nunn, Derrick Jones Jr. are 2 other guys to keep an eye on for the Heat. Mike Budenholzer and Eric Spoelstra will be a solid head coaching matchup. However, there is something that tells me that I like the Heat more than the Bucks in this series. So my pick to win this series is the Miami Heat in 6 games in an upset over the Milwaukee Bucks. Number 3 seed Boston Celtics against the number 2 seed Toronto Raptors. This is going to be a very tight and entertaining series. Boston gave Toronto problems during the regular season. The Celtics beat the Raptors 3-1. Oh, and the Celtics also won Game 1 easily. Boston isn't as deep as Toronto is, but the Celtics seem to do things better against the Raptors. It's just maybe one of those matchup things. Maybe they're just in their heads. And they tried double teaming Jason Tatum. I mean, the heart and soul of the Boston Celtics. He's just one of those players right now that's just really good. And then you also got Jaylen Brown, Kemba Walker versus Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, and Kyle Lowry. So Lowry did play in Game 1, despite the ankle injury. And if he's not 100%, it's going to be a problem. And there's also no Gordon Hayward for Boston as well in this series, though, nonetheless. They will miss him. Cruz Boucher and Matt Thomas could step up for Toronto. Brad Stevens and Nick Nurse are two of the best coaches in the NBA. We will see how this series unfolds, though, nonetheless, and they both rely on defense and getting out in transition, though, nonetheless. The pick, Boston Celtics in 7 games. So the Boston Celtics win in 7 games. Use promo code 12OZ Sports, all caps, for deposit bonus up to $1,000 for my bookie. And next up, now we're going into the National Hockey League. So in the NHL this weekend, what happened? Yes. When I just thought that I really thought the 2-day layoff for the Boston Bruins was going to help, but it did not. It did not. But before I could continue this Tampa Bay Boston series, I just want to read very quickly to you the Winnipeg Jets statement. The Winnipeg Jets Hockey Club and True North Sports Plus Entertainment support and applaud the move by the players, the NHL, and the NHLPA to postpone the Stanley Cup playoff games in order to shine a spotlight on the racial injustices that continue to occur. Our players, along with those of other sports in North America, have taken a commendable step to move the conversation ahead. We look forward to now continuing those talks with our players in order to develop further actions that promote equality and social justice. So now back to the Boston Bruins and the Tampa Bay Lightning. First period goals. Tampa Bay, Andre Palat, 8:59 mark, assisted by Braden Point. Second period goals. Tampa Bay, Andre Palat, 12:29, assisted by Anthony Cirelli and Nikita Kucherov. Tampa Bay power play goal. That was a weird-looking goal. Victor Hedman went off one guy, and then into the net. Power play goal, 18:04, assisted by Tyler Johnson, Nikita Kucherov. Third period goals. Boston, Jacob DeBrusk, 7:04 power play goal, assisted by Charlie Cormac Grzelcyk. Andre Vasilevsky, 29 saves for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Yaroslav Halak, 23 saves for the Boston Bruins. I don't see Tampa Bay blowing a 3-1 lead series, though, against Boston. Not having goaltender Tuukka Rask is going to hurt this team, but I didn't think it was going to happen anyways, though, nonetheless. Steven Stamkos has yet to play a game this postseason for the Lightning, and is going to be interested to see if he will even play for them this postseason, though, nonetheless. The final in this game was 3-1 Tampa Bay over to Boston, though, nonetheless. So I'm curious to see what happens in Game 5. And this is just going to be interesting. What did I say? Vasilevsky, 29 saves for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then followed out with Yaroslav Halak with 23 saves for the Boston Bruins. So I think personally Tampa Bay ends it tonight. Maybe Boston extends it one more game. We'll see. Next, the Philadelphia Flyers and the New York Islanders. So there's no goal scoring in the first period. Second period goals. New York Islanders, Brock Nelson, 6:52, assisted by Josh Bailey. Philadelphia, Sean Couturier, 15:19, assisted by Justin Braun and Robert Hagg. Third period goals. John Gabriel Pageau, 7:18, assisted by Scott Mayfield and Devin Tays. Also in the third period for the Islanders, Brock Nelson, 11:12, assisted by Josh Bailey and Anthony Beauvillier. Philadelphia, Ivan Provorov, 18:05, assisted by Kevin Hayes and Travis Sanheim. Brian Elliott, 30 saves in a losing effort for the Philadelphia Flyers. Thomas Greiss, 36 saves for the New York Islanders in a losing effort. And you're going to probably see go back Carter Hart and Semyon Varlamov, the starting goalies for Game 5. They only did this for a back-to-back situation. Both of those goalies actually did a pretty good job for the most part, because these teams, they basically peppered shots all night. I wouldn't say the quality of chances were that great in this game, but the fact there were that many shots tells you that the players were moving their legs, they were skating, they put the puck on the net even though we weren't great opportunities, and the goals gave up maybe Carter Hart stops, but who knows? Now that the Islanders won this game 3-2, and now they're up 3-1 in the series, and I was thinking about this morning, And Islanders fans are not going to want to hear this. When I was writing up the stats this morning, so it's Barry Trotz and Alain Vigneault, the head coaches. So Trotz has a 3-1 lead on Vigneault. In 2020, when Trotz now is the Islanders head coach. And now Vigneault's the Flyers coach. But back in 2015, Trotz was the head coach for the Washington Capitals. And Alain Vigneault was the coach for the New York Rangers. And Trotz had a 3-1 series lead with the Capitals. And Vigneault's team was down 3-1. So here we are again, 5 years later. Vigneault's down 3-1. Maybe he has Trotz right where he wants him. And maybe I'll be right, maybe I'll be wrong. But I picked the Flyers to win this series in 6. Now they're going to have to do it in 7 to make me look right. No, my Uncle Frank keeps shoving this down my throat about the Flyers winning a 7. And me and him thought the Flyers were actually going to win last night. But I've been wrong a lot of times before. I've been wrong on the air a lot of times, messaging people and so forth. I've been wrong about a lot of things before. But the New York Islanders have been one of the best teams in the bubble. And before entering yesterday's game, I saw on The Athletic, the New York Islanders. Now it's got to be a goal differential plus 22 because it was entering the game of plus 21. And this is why they may win it all. But then yet again, maybe a lack of personnel, maybe the reason why they blow a 3-1 series lead, or maybe why they don't win the Stanley Cup, or maybe beat the Tampa Bay Lightning or Boston Bruins in the Eastern Conference Finals. Because if everything ends in a Game 5, we may be starting the Conference Finals as soon as Thursday or Friday, and everything's now going to shift to Edmonton for the Conference Finals and the Stanley Cup Finals. And if it were to stay the same as it is today, if it all stays at 3-1 series deficit, everyone closes out in game 5, we would have the Dallas Stars and the Vegas Golden Knights, and we would have the New York Islanders and the Tampa Bay Lightning, which I think would both be very interesting series, which I may be previewing on the Hunter Show on Thursday, and there are a lot of things I'm probably going over on that very special show. But for right now, this was a good effort by the New York Islanders, and Jean-Gabriel Pageau has been a fantastic acquisition by General Manager Lou Lamoriello. And I've been so critical of Jean-Gabriel Pageau. I remember him in the 2017 playoffs. He had 4 goals against the New York Rangers. I'm like, this dude's a scrub. He ain't good. He's only doing this 1 year here, 1 year wonder with Ottawa. No, he's not a 1 year hit and 1 year wonder. The Islanders are probably going to keep him around. And they probably should. And I was dead wrong with him about him when he was with Ottawa. Now he's looking at with the New York Islanders. With the Ottawa Senators and New York Islanders, though, nonetheless. So, next game and next series, Colorado Avalanche and the Dallas Stars. I'm surprised that the Stars have 3-1 and the Avalanche have gruesome injuries that they may not be able to recover from. So, let me go through this quickly. In the first period, Dallas had a 3-0 lead. And Colorado didn't register its first shot to what? 2:35 remaining in the first? Dallas, John Klingberg, 6:18. Assisted by Radek Faska and Blake Como. Dallas, Radek Faska, 8:33. Power play goal, assisted by Ropin, Tamara Hiskinen. 10:45, Jamie Benn power play goal, assisted by Alexander Radulov and Joe Pavelski. Second period goals, Valerie Nichushkin, 13:24. Assisted by Cal McCarr and Andre Burakovsky. Colorado, 26 seconds remaining, second period, 19:34 mark. Cal McCarr, assisted by Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen. And then, in the third period, Ropin, 7:30 on the power play, assisted by John Klingberg and Radek Faska. Dennis Garlanov, 8:02 unassisted. That was off of Cale Makar turnover, and every single teammate basically at his back. Colorado Valerie, Nichushkin 11-24, assisted by Andre Burakovsky, Samuel Girard. Vladislav Nemensikov, 1956, basically 4 seconds remaining in the game. Assisted by Samuel Girard and Nazim Kadri. Pavel Francois, 21 saves for the Colorado Avalanche. Michael Hutchinson, 3 saves for the Colorado Avalanche. Anton Khudobin, 33 saves for the Dallas Stars. Francois, he's going to start Game 5 because Phil Grubauer's not ready. Jared Benoit, the head coach, said that. Michael Hutchinson, once upon a time, a great prospect with the Winnipeg Jets. Isn't seeing much in the NHL these days. He's just a backup with Colorado. Michael Hutchinson and then Anton Khudobin, 33 saves. Dallas Stars. And Ben Bishop still remains to be seen. Jake Ottinger is the backup goalie for the Dallas Stars right now. So I'm surprised that's 3-1. Dallas could close it out tonight. I'm not sure if they will. I could see Colorado winning this game. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Game 6. Last series I want to talk about before I rip into more fantasy football leagues. So Vegas and Vancouver. So in the first period, Max Pacioretty, 928, assisted by Mark Stone, Shea Theodore. Vancouver, 11-15, Elias Pettersson, power play goal, assisted by JT Miller and Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes has been outstanding. One who's also been outstanding, Cale Makar, Colorado Avalanche defenseman, and Miro Heiskanen, Dallas Stars defenseman. He has 16 points. He might be their Conn Smythe Trophy winner right now, but you could also throw in Joe Pavelski, John Klingberg, and Jamie Benn in the mix. Vegas, Chandler Stevenson as well, 13-19 in the first period. Second period, Bo Horvat, 407, with Stevenson, the former Capital. Horvat, the captain of the Canucks, 407 in the second period. Tyler Toffoli, they had a 3-2 lead, former LA King from Los Angeles, 11-26 on the power play. And then third period, Vegas scores 3 goals. Nate Schmidt, former Washington Capital, 252. Vegas, 702 mark. Max Pacioretty, second of the game. Former Montreal Canadien. Played with the Canadiens for a lot of his career in Montreal, 702 mark for Max Pacioretty. Then William Karlsson, former Columbus Blue Jacket player with the Columbus Blue Jackets for a couple of years in his career. 829 mark in the third period. Marc-Andre Fleury, 28 saves for the Vegas Golden Knights. He used to play with the Pittsburgh Penguins, former Penguin in Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh Penguins franchise missed him very much. And Jakob Markstrom, 28 saves as well for the Vancouver Canucks. They're also on the brink of elimination. So the Stars and the Lightning could end their respective series tonight. And the Golden Knights and the Islanders could end their respective series tomorrow. So we'll see. So the second round of the playoffs could potentially end tomorrow night. And I think we could start the conference finals potentially maybe as soon as Thursday or Friday this week. We will see how these games are going to wind up across the National Hockey League. So, before I get into fantasy football, one quick thing. Nate McMillan got fired by the Indiana Pacers. I was shocked about it. I didn't think he deserved to get fired. 3-16 playoffs as head coach. 136 record with the, he lost 136 games with the Pacers. He's going to be picked up by a different team, though, in a second. If the Houston Rockets do not bring back Mike D'Antoni, he'll most likely become the next head coach for Indiana, though, nonetheless, in the Pacers in Indiana land. Indiana Pacers are a well-run organization. And now, moving on from the Indiana Pacers, on to Tim Glidman's Fantasy Football League. This is his league, and I get to call him out, finally, his league, as I've done the last 2 shows with 2 different fantasy football leagues. Third consecutive show. Him and Musa Abuhala, great listeners of the show here. So now I get to finally rip into their teams. First team name, Just Another Patel. Team is as follows. Christian McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette, Adam Thielen, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Dak Prescott, Brandon Cooks, CeeDee Lamb, Emmanuel Sanders, Justin Jackson, Chicago Bears, Keyshawn Vaughn, Harrison Butker, Joe Burrow, Karis Campbell, and Chris Thompson Jr. I see 2 problems with this team. Well, it's a pretty good team. He must be a Jaguars fan because A. Fournette, but he got released, and Chris Thompson Jr. But the receivers are pretty good. I think later on in the year, you may be starting Joe Burrow over Dak Prescott. We'll see if Andy Dalton maybe replaces Dak Prescott at some point this year. Oh, this has got to be Moose's team. Nacho Moose 95. Saquon Barkley. Mike Evans. James Conner. Mark Ingram II. Oh, what a surprise! You took Mark Ingram II. Ravens homer. Mark Andrews. Ravens homer again. Michael Gallup. Will Fuller V. Oh, here we go. The Baltimore Ravens defense and special teams. What is with you, man? You took the Ravens. You had to take the Ravens. You couldn't have taken anyone else, could you? You couldn't have taken the guts like your friend Amado Bada in my fantasy league, got with the rival, the Steelers, and he took the Chicago Bears being a Green Bay Packers fan? You couldn't have done that? Man, a Ravens homer you are. Drew Brees, Rob Gronkowski, Justin Tucker. Here we go again. Why didn't you just name your fantasy team Baltimore Ravens Nacho Moose 95? Yes, you should have named your fantasy team that. And I'm here all for it, man. That's what I'm all here for, to get into your guys' ears. And yes, I'm just poking fun at you all. Because I love it all and I love doing this. Who else does he have? Drew Brees, Rob Gronkowski, Justin Tucker, Adrian Peterson, Robbie Anderson, Larry Fitzgerald, Hunter Henry, Miles Boykin. Oh, another Raven. Want to know how I feel about your fantasy team? Well, Barkley's good, Evans is good, Brees is good. You have no stinking backup quarterback. You don't got a backup. I have an idea who you should take as your backup quarterback for your fantasy league. Why don't you take Robert Griffin III at this point? That's who should be your fantasy backup. You take all these Ravens guys. He's the Ravens backup. Make it your fantasy world backup too. Make Robert Griffin III your fantasy backup as well. That would just be very funny. Now, wouldn't it, Moose Abdullah, with your Natural Moose 95 team, where it should be Moose Abdullah and Natural Moose 95. All right, enough of my nonsense. Aka Box. Ezekiel Elliott, Lamar Jackson, Todd Gurley II, Robert Woods, Devin Singletary, Devontae Parker, Jarvis Landry, Marvin Jones Jr., Kieran Johnson, Jamison Crowder, Preston Williams, Duke Johnson Jr., Brashard Perriman, Naeem Hines, New Orleans Saints defense, Younghoe Ko. Boy, does that team stink from the S to the K. My goodness gracious on that one. That team is downright garbage. Other than Ezekiel Elliott and Lamar Jackson, who's waiting to get hurt. And Devontae Parker's okay. Landry's okay. Woods, Singletary, Jones Jr., Johnson, Crowder, Williams, Johnson Jr., Perriman, Hines, Saints defense co. Not happening. No. This is not a good team at all. Next team. I'm disgusted that I had to read that pitiful roster on here, but that's my job, to rip into you guys and see how I feel about your drafts. Next on this draft list, Drek 11. Alvin Kamara, Chris Godwin, Kenny Galladay, A.J. Brown, Raheem Mostert, Darren Waller, Deshaun Watson, Damian Harris, Antonio Gibson, Mecole Hardman Jr., Jerry Jeudy, Matthew Stafford, Michael Pittman Jr., Jerick McKinnon, Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, Matt Prater. Now, this is a fantasy team. You have a good quarterback in Deshaun Watson, and you got a solid backup. Wait a second. You had Deshaun Watson and Matthew Stafford. Galladay, Godwin, good receivers. A.J. Brown, Waller, good tight end. Harris, breakout. Gibson, a quiet guy. Galladay, Hardman Jr., Jeudy, good receivers. Pittman Jr. I like this team. Josh Jake and McKinnon's good too. D. Casper, 498. Josh Jacobs. DeAndre Hopkins, Patrick Mahomes, DeAndre Swift, T.Y. Hilton, J.K. Dobbins, Darius Slayton, Jared Cook, Pittsburgh Steelers defense, K.J. Hamler, Hayden Hurst, Bryce Love, Daniel Jones, Greg Zuerlein, Hunter Renfrow, Denver Broncos. Not bad. Probably the second best team that I read off here. Next team, R.G. Curry. Oh, geez. Dalvin Cook, Julio Jones, Le'Veon Bell, Juju Smith-Schuster, Kareem Hunt, Jordan Howard, San Francisco 49ers, Alexander Madison, Henry Ruggs III, John Brown, Darrell Anderson Jr., Golden Tate Jr., Curtis Samuel, Randall Cobb, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Cole Beasley. Not bad. It's not good. Dalvin Cook, Julio Jones, good. I don't know how Bell's going to do. Smith-Schuster, I think Smith-Schuster's going to be cut within the first couple of weeks. Not from the Steelers. But when Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, and James Washington are going to be the top 3 receivers, not Juju Smith-Schuster, then I think it's going to be a personal problem. Next, the Google Meet. Michael Thomas, Aaron Jones, Amari Cooper, Jonathan Taylor, Terry McLaurin, David Montgomery, Carson Wentz, Tariq Cohen, Evan Ingram, Justin Jefferson, Aaron Rodgers, Brandon Ayuk, Kansas City Chiefs, Benny Sell Jr., Greg Ward Jr., D.D. Westbrook. Greg Ward Jr.? What? Excuse me. D.D. Westbrook? Montgomery's hurt. McLaurin, I don't know how good Dwayne Haskins is going to be. Amari Cooper's good. Jones and Taylor are good. Wentz is injury prone. You already got one guy hurt, Montgomery. Aaron Rodgers, I don't know how good he's going to be. Ayuk and Jefferson are sleepers. Chiefs defense, you're going to get a lot of special teams with them. And then Ward Jr. and D.D. Westbrook, don't like those picks. Shorts 33. Derrick Henry, Kenyon Drake, Travis Kelce, Odell Beckham Jr., DJ Chark Jr., AJ Green, Philip Lindsay, Matt Ryan, Chase Edmonds, Jalen Reagor, Anthony Miller, AJ Dillon, Carlos Hyde, Alshon Jeffrey, Zane Gonzalez, Dallas Cowboys defense. This might be the best team in the league. Balanced running back, tight end, receivers, quarterbacks. He drafted one, but Matt Ryan is definitely going to put up numbers. Pavilion. Jeez. Okay, gonna slow down here. I still got another 5 minutes. I'm only down to my final 2 teams here with everything else. I guess you could say with everything else. P-Villain, Miles Sanders, Tyreek Hill, Allen Robinson III, DJ Moore, Ronald Jones II, Cam Akers, Kyler Murray, Deontay Johnson, Zach Moss, Christian Cook, Boston Scott, New England Patriots defense, N'Keal Harry, DeAndre Washington, Robbie Gould, LaShawn McCoy. Not bad at quarterback. Not bad at receiver. I'm not a fan of the tailbacks. Maybe find another, if there's a running back that breaks out later in the season off the waiver wire, I go grab him. Because I'm not sure how good your tailbacks are really going to be. Miles Sanders, I know he's going to catch passes out of the backfield, but I'm not. Ronald Jones, I'm not sure of him. I'm not sure Cam Akers, Zach Moss, Boston Scott. I'm not sure your DeAndre Washington. I'm not sure your tailbacks. I'm very, very critical of your running backs. Otherwise, I think your roster's not bad at all. You're probably the fourth or fifth best team on here. Next up, Connor, Gabe, 1, 2, 3. Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, Melvin Gordon III, Calvin Ridley, Zach Ertz, Cortland Sutton, Deebo Samuel, James White, Buffalo Bills defense, Josh Allen, Mike Williams, Sammy Watkins, Tony Pollard, Will Lutz, Drew Lock, and Mike Gesicki. Not bad. Gesicki and Ertz, good tight ends. Samuel, when he's healthy, is very good. He could get you rushing and receiving yards. Sutton's underrated receiver, Ridley too. Watkins, I'm not sure what he's going to be on a week-to-week. And then Mixon and Chubb, good backs. Gordon the third, too. Mike Williams is a guy you got to keep an eye out for, though, nonetheless. And then Tony Pollard, I'm not sure how much time he's going to get with having Ezekiel Elliott. And Mike Williams with the Chargers. And then Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. Hamlet, last team I'm reading. Hamlet, AB3. Devontae Adams, Austin Eckler, George Kittle, Russell Wilson, Stephon Diggs, Marlon Mack, Tyler Boyd, Tevin Coleman, Sonny Michel, Deshaun Jackson, Alan Lazard, Philadelphia Eagles, Cam Newton, Camille Fairbairn, Jalen Hurts, and Kendrick Bourne. Ooh, did someone take Hurts knowing that he must be an Eagles fan, knowing that Hurts is going to play a lot more this year than Wentz? And I talked about this between Wentz and Hurts earlier. Because Hurts and Wentz, we will see what happens here, though, nonetheless. Kendrick Bourne, good receiver. But the Hurts and Wentz situation is something interesting to keep an eye on moving forward. Ladies and gentlemen, I am out of time here. Thank you for tuning in to Glenn's Dynamic Sports Corner. I am your host, Glenn Kaplan. I will be back on the air at the same time on Thursday, hopefully. And it will be show number 100, hopefully, though, nonetheless. The plans for this show is just a little bit of NBA and NHL. And this is going to be the big show with my NFL preview, the top 10 teams in the NFL, and my NFL award picks. So it's going to be a big NFL show Thursday for my 100 show. And everyone, if you can't listen to it live, I hope you can listen to it on the replay for Thursday, because I'm hoping show number 100 is something special and something fantastic, which I felt that the last two shows in 98 and 99 have been very good. I feel like as time's going on, I'm just getting better and better. So, all right. Use promo code 12OZ Sports, all caps for deposit bonus